Welcome to the Sourcing Hero podcast, produced by Una, a group purchasing organization that empowers sourcing heroes, and Art of Procurement, the world's largest procurement podcast network. I'm your host, Kelly Barnard. The goal of the Sourcing Hero podcast is to capture the epic stories of people who are rising up and beating the odds to create exceptional value within procurement, directly from those heroes themselves. Today, my guest here on the Sourcing Hero podcast is Sanja Cancar-Todorovic. Sanja is the Head of Enterprise Procurement, Outsourcing, and Third-Party Risk Management for Home Capital Group. She is also a dedicated and passionate advocate for increasing the placement of women in senior executive roles, and that's in procurement and beyond. So, hi, Sanja. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Sourcing Hero podcast.
Hey, Kelly. Thank you for having me.
So in my introduction, I shared very high level information about what you do, what's important to you, but what else should people know about your professional journey to this point?
My professional journey. It began over 20 years ago. And I like to joke and say, I was 12 when it started. Child labor laws were not really that important back in the day. But I am a passionate customer experience, strategy, and transformation leader, specializing, as you said, in cost and quality streamlining through global procurement, strategic sourcing, BPO, ITO, vendor management, and third-party risk management. And, with over 20 years of experience working in a large global organization, I have been lucky enough to be recognized for my leadership and my contributions, not just by my employers, but also by the supply chain industry as well. I love paying it forward. I truly, truly enjoy writing numerous industry publications to, share the knowledge, share the best practices, thought-provoking articles, just to kind of get us to look outside of the box every once in a while. And I truly enjoy speaking at different industry events. It is always my way to, again, pay it forward, share the best practices, but also have an ability to learn from others as well. And at the risk of tooting my own horn, Kelly, I am also a cover girl, 20 years too late, but better late than never. I have been featured on the covers of 2 industry magazines back in 2021. And that kind of, it's me reliving my teenage dreams, at this age.
Well, congratulations for that. And
Thank you.
You've come to the right place. We horn toot all the time here. So please do not hold back as we have this conversation. Now, you mentioned a couple of times paying it forward. And I think that's probably a good way to transition to what we're going to focus on today. You are passionate about getting female professionals into senior level positions. How did that become not only something that's important to you, but a cause that you felt like you wanted to work towards?
Kelly, I really feel that I was born to do this. And I say this because I am the oldest out of 3 sisters. And without me even realizing it, all my life I had someone looking up to me and me being a role model to them. So it really is something that I fell into and fell in love with. Since the day I entered the workforce, I have been working in male-dominant industries where this passion really became vocal as I started to engage in and establish different employee resource groups with a main focus on increasing female representation. Because you know what, I'll tell you, at the entry level roles, we're pretty good. We are at 50-50, so we have pretty good stats. But then as you progress up the corporate ladder, and especially as you hit that senior management level, those numbers dramatically start to drop off. And that's kind of what ignited the spark and really, it blew up to what it is today. And I have every intention to continue with it until we see some significant progress.
Now, when you have conversations, whether with women that are on that ladder or with women that are already in those senior executive roles, or even companies in general, what seem to be the main causes or the main reasons for struggle? That it's hard, as you mentioned, we start off relatively easily evenly represented in the professional work pool, but then women kind of fall off as you go up the ranks. What are the main reasons for that?
There isn't one reason. There really are few. It's a combination of several reasons, some that we can control and others that we can only influence, such as, constraints put in place by the society, which will take time and a long time to turn over. But, focusing on the stuff that we can control, women are really not playing on the level playing field. And it really starts with the way we were raised for the most part, because we were raised to act like a lady,
Yeah.
be agreeable, be likable, don't go against the grain. And these are the types of attitudes that really do hinder us as we are trying to make a move or progress within the corporate on the corporate ladder. The expectations placed on us from the adolescence years, and I think not just by the circle of friends and family, but by media and now social media even worse, really puts a psychological pressure on our self-esteem and how we value ourselves, which triggers this thing called imposter syndrome, which is not gender specific, but
True.
because of the previous points I made, it really is prominent within the with women more than so than men, and that also hinders our ability to ask for what we want, go after what we want, but most importantly, negotiate for ourselves. And I'll say from the personal experience, one thing that's very specific to women, and I have lived it myself, is that no matter how much we want to pretend, having children does hinder your career progression. And I think there's laws in place, there's policies in place to kind of mitigate those risks. But I've been a victim of it. I have two children and two, and I've only taken 4 months off. But here in Canada, we have a full year that is
Okay.
allocated for maternity leave. But even with taking just 4 months off, I actually had somebody tell me once I came back after 4 months, and there was a role that was up for grabs, and obviously I put my name in the hat and said, hey, I know I'm qualified. I've been doing it before. I just kind of want to right now make it official. And that leader actually said to me, hey, you've been gone for a quarter of the year. This role should really go to somebody that's been here the entire year.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it really didn't matter what my qualifications were. It was the fact that I was out of sight and out of mind for 4 months that stopped that career progression at that time. So, as I said, some things we can control,
Yeah.
others we can't.
And it's really interesting. I'll add my own experience to that. I had a full time. I don't know. I guess you'd call it a real job with a salary and all that. Bazillion percent travel that I stepped away from when it was time to start having kids, and I ended up in between my first and second. I ended up taking the entrepreneurial route, and boy, that's just as unforgiving.
Yeah.
Even if you're sort of in the driver's seat, if you take a single day off, a single hour off, as entrepreneurs will tell you, everything comes to a screeching halt. And so
100%.
it's very difficult to balance. I certainly remember scheduling conference calls during nap times and around
Yeah.
preschool schedules and all of that. So if nothing else, I think we can say that, like any other personal choice or condition, it definitely impacts your professional trajectory. And so it's figuring out what we can do about that. Now, when you and I spoke previously, I was impressed by the fact that it's not just you're observing, you're certainly not just complaining, but you're noticing this situation that you wish were different, and then you're taking active steps to correct it. So, can you talk about some of your experiences mentoring and supporting professional women on this journey?
Oh, 100%. So, with all of the inequalities that we do have, something, I said it before, united we stand. And I think, with women supporting women, there is no greater power and we can achieve everything. It doesn't happen all the time. I think, women sometimes do have that ability to not be the best supporters. But I think it's because of the conditioning that we've been that we've been part of for the longest time, where you're kind of fighting on your own, and once you kind of break that glass ceiling, some women tend to build concrete walls, concrete floors, so that no one else can come up and potentially take over their spot, which is such a wrong mindset, and it really does not do us collectively any favors.
No.
For me, it really started organically with the alumni groups that I was part of, and became a lot more formal through different employee resource groups that I either co-founded or participated in. But it wasn't until 2013 that I realized that I can take this one step further than just the ERGs and leverage my role within the supply chain to open up doors for female entrepreneurs. This is when I got involved with different nonprofit organizations focused on women and minority-owned businesses, and injected them as part of the larger corporate supplier diversity programs. I'm also involved with several different boards, and they're all focused on either increasing female representation in the workforce or advancement of the professionals through education, certification, networking, and standards of practice. So, I mean, needless to say, I am a vocal advocate of diversity in business, and I truly, truly, truly believe that diversity breeds innovation. Whether it's within the supply chain with the diverse vendors, or whether it's in your teams with the leadership, the diversity of thought does wonders. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? So, I mean, you've got to break the cycle and inject some diverse thoughts, some diverse way of thinking in order to make a meaningful progress. And I'll tell you, Kelly, it is this passion for equal representation and the persistent ask from my own mentees, whether it's the mentees on the corporate side or the mentees of the supplier diversity side. But for years they've been asking me for a tangible playbook on career progression, and that is what inspired me to write my first book called "Be Bold and Brilliant." And I'm proud to say that it has made Amazon's bestseller in the career guide category the same month that it was launched, which was
Wow.
March of this year. So it was something that I timed for the International Women's Month of March 2023. And I'm happy to say that really it has made, first of all, it made my mentees a lot happier, but also it sparked this whole conversation with
Yeah.
other women who are in other organizations developing their own employee resource groups and kind of using this as a playbook on how to motivate, inspire, and push the envelope a little bit into our favor to kind of get the ball rolling on what we are trying to achieve here. And I'll tell you the ultimate goal of this book, besides, trying to appease the need that we need to have something tangible to read and go back to as a playbook. But the ultimate goal for me is to reach the greatest number of mentees in the shortest period of time for the biggest impact on the numbers presented by the McKinsey. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. The report is called Women in Workplace 2022. And it shows that despite the modest progress, women are still dramatically underrepresented in the leadership roles. So, and I don't think COVID has done us any favors. I think it put us back. Any progress that was made prior to 2019, we took two steps backwards as a result of all of the lockdowns that we had in response to COVID for the last 3 years.
No, I completely agree with you about that. And it's funny, just the other day I was sort of reflecting back to what things were like in that time. And oh my gosh, you're trying to like find a corner of the house where multiple children are not at Zoom school. And then you're preparing and cleaning up from no less than 3 meals and 2 snacks per day. And then typically in the middle of a conference call, someone can't find a pencil, a frisbee, a shoelace, right?
Oh,
Now you've
Kelly, how
mentioned,
did we survive it? How did we survive it?
Anya,
You're
this
giving me
is my honest answer to that
PTSD.
question. I have no idea. One
I know.
day at a time, I think is the answer to that.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm
Yeah,
with you, and I'm glad that we are out of it, and
that's
we can
right.
laugh about it now.
Right. Yes. Now it was not so funny back then.
No.
Um, One of the things that I want to pick up on that you've mentioned, you've talked about mentorship several times, and I love the fact, first of all, that you talk about writing the book not just because it's been asked for, but because it gives you an opportunity to share your perspective at scale. I love that. That is such a straightforward objective.
Thank you.
But I imagine you must also have mentors and role models that have been important to you on your journey. And I would love to give you an opportunity to recognize whether it's one or whether it's a few of the women, or truthfully, even men that have mentored you on your journey and maybe picked you up or given you energy in times when you needed it.
So I really thought about this because somebody else asked me the same question not that long ago. And I truthfully cannot single one person. And the reason why I say that is because as I kind of look back for the last 20 plus years of my career, you realize there's different steps and different stages of the career, and the mentors changes as you progress, because you're always looking to learn more, and it's a natural evolution that happens. So I mean, I have been lucky enough to have several of great mentors, both male and female, that I learned a lot from, and they have really helped me um, overcome imposter syndrome. Is the first thing I think that, that it's
Yeah.
crucial for everyone to overcome before anything else. But it's those people that I went to as trusted advisors to kind of bounce off ideas, get a different perspective on, and sometimes get brutal on its truth about when I'm on the wrong path, or I'm thinking of doing something that might not be in my best interest. And those are my brutal truth tellers that kind of steered me in the right direction. And maybe at a time it didn't look like it, but
Yeah.
now looking back, like, they really did have my best interest at heart. So I can't single out one because I really did have a lot. But what I do want to use this opportunity to say is that mentorship is a two-way street, and seeking a mentor is just as valuable as being a mentor yourself, because it is a two-way street. And you think you are a mentor to somebody else, and they come to you for advice, for information, for guidance. There is so much that you learn from listening to what they're going through, that you might have not thought about it yourself, because either because you're not in that situation, or because I'll give you an example. Because I do, a lot of my mentees are fresh out of school, so they're just in their first corporate jobs, and they're trying to navigate the world that we live in. And the stuff that I learn from them all the time is how the Gen Zs think, because I am not a part of that generational group. And let's face it, there is generational differences between between boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and now we have zennials entering the workforce as well. And just being their mentor and listening to how they think, what their challenges are, makes me a better leader, because I have a whole bunch of Gen Zs in my team that I can now say, okay, wait a second, this is how they want to be communicated. This is how this is what they value. This is how they digest information. This is how they like to. This is the way they like to be to communicate. And it just makes me a better leader, and it makes my employees more engaged, because I'm meeting them on their terms. And understanding what it is that inspires them. So mentoring is great. It is a two-way street. You have to treat it as a two-way street, because truly it is. And having a mentor is just as important as being one. And I go back to that whole point that I made previously about paying it forward.
It's interesting as I think about some of what you've shared. One of the things that's coming together in my mind from a couple of your points, one is, and I've definitely read this statistic that I forget the number, but women on average negotiate X% less salary than men do. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not an enormous percentage, but it is really on the board, whatever that number is. And then you think about the importance of not just receiving mentorship, but stepping up and saying, I will be a mentor. It would not surprise me to find out that many women who would actually be wonderful mentors to anybody simply don't step up and put themselves out there and say, either generally, I think I have what it takes to be a good mentor to someone who needs a mentor, or to approach an individual and say, you know what, if you're interested in mentorship, I would love to work with you. I can't help but wonder if those two dynamics sometimes don't go together so that maybe we end up with less female mentors than we could potentially have.
Kelly, it goes back to that imposter syndrome. It's the fact that, maybe we just don't feel like we have something to offer that is of
Yeah.
value as a mentor, which is such BS in my opinion, because everybody has something to offer. And it is, that's why I said what I said earlier about imposter syndrome being the greatest hindrance. Again, it's not gender specific, but proportionately more it is affecting women than it does men, because of all of the other stuff that we talked about earlier. So and I'll tell you, the statistics that I read is that only 30% of women will negotiate for the salary. 70% of us will just accept whatever is given to us. So, and why is that? It's, you got to step out of your comfort zone. If you don't
Yes.
ask for what you want, the answer will always be no.
We have to stop being so nice.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
Stop being nice. Stop trying to be agreeable. Like I'm not saying, create enemies, because I
of
don't think
course.
you should measure success by the number of bodies you leave behind either. But there is a fine medium that we can definitely do, and it is making us step out of our comfort zone for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we gotta do it. We just gotta do it.
Now, one last question I want to ask you, actually, to sort of bring this back more specifically to procurement and supply chain. Part of our ability to get women up the ladder and into leadership roles selfishly within procurement and supply chain starts at the very beginning, and our ability to attract smart, bright, hardworking women to consider procurement and supply chain as careers. Do you have any advice about what we can do to position, promote, advocate for our line of work as a very attractive place for women to at least start their career and do a rotation, if not stay for the duration?
So I can say that women naturally have high EQ, which is so important for a successful career. But considering that, I would say 50% of what we do in supply chain is relationship based,
Yeah.
women do really would thrive in this environment. That's just my, plain and simple truth out there. Would thrive. Now, I don't think that we are doing a good job promoting this. And the reason why I say this is because I didn't dream about becoming a procurement professional. To be honest with you, I didn't even know that this job existed when I was in school,
Yeah. Most
because
of
it
us
wasn't
didn't.
talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of fall into it and then you fall in love with it. I wanted to be a lawyer. That was my big dream back in the day. And I'll tell you how I fell into it is that, when it came after university, when I went to apply for law school, I had one of my mentors kind of said to me, "Hey, Sonia, like, really, do you want to be a lawyer? Because that's very niche. Like, I get that you like that part of that industry, that occupation, but think about it. If you're a lawyer, you are really constrained to a geographical area that you can
Ah,
practice in, and in a very, very specific niche market. However, supply chain is one of those areas that allows you to, go with your business, use your business acumen, use the legal aspect of it, and use the relationship building skills that you have, and you will kick butt in that area. So that's kind of how I learned about it. It wasn't because, I knew about supply chain. It was because I had a mentor at the time that kind of changed my trajectory of where I was going. So I think we need to do a better job at promoting what it is in supply chain, because it's not, everyone knows about marketing, everyone knows
yes.
about finance, everyone knows about product development. Why not supply chain? And I think, to be fair, I have to say this. I think, if you want to look at the silver lining of the last 3 years and what has happened, is that the whole supply chain procurement area has been elevated to the heights that we have never seen before. I think traditionally
Mhm.
this industry was looked at as an enablement role,
Yes.
and probably an afterthought for a lot of organizations. That March 2020 came, it hit everyone hard, and then everybody turned around and looked at supply chain to say, whoa, what do we do? And it really did elevate this industry, supply chain industry, to to a role of a strategic partner within every organization. So I think it's working in our favor that now we have the exposure that we have never seen before. And in my opinion, the exposure will continue because as part of supply chain, we now also have third-party risk management that has been embedded within supply chain because supply chain is the first line of defense. And that will just progress in its importance as we have so much reliance on IT. Everyone has moved to the cloud. We now have, e-commerce that it's exploding everywhere and affecting supply chain as well. So I think we have a bit of a head start that COVID gave us. And now it's just a matter of, making sure that we stay there on trajectory and ensuring that, people know about us and what it is that we do and how they can make a successful career in it. And it is, I'll tell you, it is a career for everyone who is contemplating about supply chain that's listening. It is a type of career that if you thrive in chaos, where no day is exactly the same as previous,
It's so true.
Right? Like
Yes.
You can't plan anything because you don't know. But if you thrive in that environment, you love talking to people. You love legalities around negotiating contracts for a win-win outcome, because it has to be a win-win. Otherwise, it's
Right.
not going to be successful. Then supply chain is the place where you want to be.
Now, Sanja, let me ask you this, and this is a tradition here at the Sourcing Heroes. So prepare yourself to be officially initiated into the Sourcing Hero Halls of Fame in the coming moments. Every single guest that joins me on the show, the first time we go through this process, I'm going to give you 2 questions. It's entirely up to you which one you answer, and there are no wrong answers. So for someone who thrives in chaos, you will be completely fine with this exercise. So here are your 2 choices. Either what does the idea of a sourcing hero mean to you, or what does heroism look like in a business context?
Oh, those are good questions. Heroism in a business context to me means being a leader. And no, the title does not make you a leader. Being a leader or a hero is being someone that constantly challenges the status quo, inspires others to do their best while being their true selves, empowers others by sharing information, so not gatekeeping anything, but also clearing the obstacles. Hero is someone that mentors, coaches, and stands up for others, is genuinely involved and interested in making a difference, is being seen as a trusted advisor, and truly does the right thing even when no one is watching. So I would say that's pretty good definition of a hero in the business context.
And I would definitely agree with you about that. Sanja, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the inspiration you have offered. And thank you so much for being here with me on the Sourcing Hero podcast.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast. Join us again next time for more true stories of sourcing and business heroism performed by your colleagues and peers. Look for the Sourcing Hero wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe. Finally, don't forget, sourcing heroism is taking place all around us every day. Keep your eyes open and you're bound to see it. Until next time, I'm your host, Kelly Barner. Stay well, and always remember that you can be a hero too.